Hello everyone, this is Leah Whitehorse, and in this recording I'm going to be talking about Mercury Retrograde in Leo for July 2025. So, as I usually do, let's get some dates out of the way first. I will put them in the box below so that you also have them for reference there. So Mercury went into the shadow zone on the 30th of June 2025 and will station retrograde on the 18th of July at 15 degrees and 34 minutes of the sign Leo. The midpoint of the retrograde will come on the 1st of August when the Sun and Mercury meet at 9 degrees of Leo. Mercury will station direct at 4 degrees and 14 minutes of Leo on the 11th of August, and then Mercury will leave the shadow zone on the 25th of August. So, from the 30th of June to the 25th of August, that covers the entire retrograde and shadow periods. So, Mercury is now in Leo as I'm recording this on the 8th of July 2025. We are nearing the retrograde period. And with Mercury in Leo, the prime function here is I want to use my voice to be heard. Leo is ruled by the sun, so it's brilliantly lit up. Think of Leo as a sign that's connected with the stage. The spotlight is on you. It's also symbolized by the lion, which has an enormous roar, so we hear it. And this is what Mercury, the communicator, wants. When it's in Leo, I want to talk about my ideas. I want to express my creativity. And I want people to hear me. But with a retrograde, though, all of this energy is going inwards. And I said, I think in my monthly forecast that this retrograde, we might be going within, which is what we do for every retrograde, going within to explore the script we are using. If we continue with the analogy of Leo being associated with the stage and theatres and actors. So is this my voice? Is this my true voice? Are these ideas really mine? Are they the truth of me? Do they express what's going on in my heart? Am I giving my heart expression? The heart is also associated with Leo. So as Mercury steps backwards through Leo, we might have a moment wherever Leo is in our own personal chart. We might have a moment where we suddenly aren't sure whether we're supposed to be speaking up, or maybe we don't know what to say here. Maybe we have a wobble of confidence. We get some stage fright. On my website, there is an article, it's an old article, but I've updated it for this Mercury retrograde. So you can get an idea of which area of life this retrograde will be affecting. It's for your rising sign, although you can read for your sun sign if you don't know your rising sign. So there's going to be some information there. But if we just go with the idea that there is stage fright, this sudden moment of being unsure of ourselves. And it's a necessary review just to make sure that we are communicating the story that we truly want to tell, the story that is ours to tell. So Mercury stations on the 18th of July at 1534 Leo, which, by the way, 15 degrees of Leo is the Lammas or lunar degree in the northern hemisphere. We have 15 degrees of Leo is the exact midpoint between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox. So this is one of the 8 major festivals of the pagan year, the eightfold year. So Lammas or Lunasa. So Lammas is like the old Saxon name, which is Loafmas. Lunasa, which is the Celtic name. This is connected with the god Lu, so bringer of light. It's one of the harvest festivals, the first of the harvest festivals. So we've got some of this symbolism coming into play. Maybe we're kind of looking at what we've grown, what we've achieved so far in this house, in this area of life, and generally for all of us. Have we been getting the results that we require or need? Has the way we've been expressing ourselves or using our creativity, has that been getting us the results that we hoped for? Maybe that's what's coming up as Mercury stations retrograde on this degree. The Sabian symbol of this station retrograde is the storm ended. All nature rejoices in brilliant sunshine. I have to say my immediate first thoughts with this Sabian symbol was a fixation on the brilliant sunshine, because Mercury is stationing in the sign of Leo, ruled by the sun. So it kind of feels like it's amplifying the fact that something is now really in the spotlight for us. It suggests to me that as Mercury goes retrograde, something is being illuminated. Perhaps there has been some kind of conflict or struggle in the area of life affected by this Mercury retrograde. And now we really see, okay, this is a problem. This is something I need to look at. This is something I need to review. Now, the asteroids, Alice, Eureka, Homerus, and Panacea are also here, all sitting with Mercury as Mercury stations retrograde. So these are little voices that are all joining in with Mercury, adding their stories, adding their songs. And by the way, if you are interested in asteroids, I am currently writing a book, Asteroids, New Voices in the Celestial Choir, which I am hoping will be out by the time I have my second Saturn return, which is going to be on the 4th of April in 2027. So I've got just over a year or so to get the book finished, but I'm very excited to be working on this. Anyway, so Alice, Eureka, Homerus, and Panacea. So Alice corresponds to Alice in Wonderland, the famous character from literature. And where Alice is, we do have a tendency to fall down the rabbit hole. So this is what's happening with Mercury retrograde. Suddenly things get really strange. Alice can also represent sort of changes of consciousness and seeing things that we didn't see before. And suddenly we are tumbling down the rabbit hole. Eureka is the word that suggests success. I've got it. This has worked. So we get a feeling then that there is some kind of discovery that comes along with this curiouser and curiouser influence. Homerus tells us that there is a very big story in all of this, and maybe this too is like an extra validation that we need to ensure that the story we are telling is our own story, rather than saying what we think other people might want to hear. Homer is considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, storytellers of all time, because he is the one that wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey. So the story that we are telling, there's things that we're discovering, we're going down the rabbit hole and everything is a little strange. And then Panacea being here suggests that we are trying to find something, some thought, some thread of understanding that is going to make everything better. That's kind of what Panacea is about. Panacea is a cure-all. So we're trying to cure everything. We're trying to relieve ourselves from the stresses, the strains of life, the difficulties that we're struggling with. And maybe this retrograde is going to help us find a perspective that is going to be very healing across the board. So after stationing retrograde on the same day, Mercury quickly makes a sextile to Venus. This is just going to be one connection between the two of them, but there's a sweet little kiss going on here because Venus, the goddess of love, is in Gemini at the moment. So we're combining this idea of a personal review with keeping the heart open and curious, that word again. So Alice, curiouser, and then Venus in curious Gemini. That's twice now we have been told to be curious, which means being open, being interested. Be interested in this process instead of worrying about, oh, Mercury's retrograde, so I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't sign this and I can't agree to that. You know, we kind of get a bit stressed with Mercury retrograde. But I always say if things go wrong during this period, then it's because Mercury has something important to show us or to gift us. So we have a prompt to open up, to connect heart and mind through being curious and interested and playful. That's a Leo word, playful with life. Mercury will then form a trine to Ceres. That's on the 20th of July. Ceres is in Aries at the moment. This will actually be the second of 3 trines because of the retrograde period. The first one to Ceres was on the 12th of July and the last one will be on the 25th of August. So Mercury trine to Ceres asks us to look at what are you feeding your mind. So Ceres is all to do with food and mothering and nurturing. So this suggests that we need to look at the information, the voice. What is it you're feeding your mind at the moment? Is this healthy? Is this good for you? Is it inspiring? Because these are fire signs. It's all about reigniting a sense of playfulness and confidence and a feeling that, yes, I can use my voice, I can speak up, I can create in this world. So Mercury trine to Ceres is just asking you to check in with what am I feeding my mind? What kind of information, books, teachings, voices are coming in? How do they feel to me? Mercury will then square Vesta on the 27th of July. Again, the second of 3 squares between Mercury and Vesta. So the first one was on the 2nd of July. The last one will be on the 30th of July. So Mercury square to Vesta, that tells us that there is some kind of distraction going on because Vesta is very focused. Vesta is intensely Scorpio focused. But sometimes we can get a bit blinkered with Vesta as well. So the square between the two of them suggests that maybe we need to have a bit more contrast here. I'm thinking of Scorpio often being a sign associated with darkness and nighttime, and then Leo, like I said before, it's ruled by the sun, so it's definitely connected with light and daytime. So there's something about contrast. And actually, as I'm looking at this, I'm suddenly seeing, it's almost like somebody is trying to take a photo of something and they're moving around the subject. And as they move around the subject of their photograph, the shadows changes. So sometimes, you know, if you've got the sun behind you and you're trying to take a photo of something in front of you, then your shadow is going to be cast right across that object that you're trying to photograph. So I feel that this square between Mercury and Vesta is telling us very specifically that when you move, when you change your viewpoint, then that is going to change how you see things. It's going to remove the shadow. It's going to get the shadow out of the way. The shadow can have sort of positive attributes to it as well as negative. But I think in this case, because it's a square, we are sort of thinking about the shadowy parts of the self that can cause us to misinterpret the situation or misinterpret other people's intentions. So I think this issue about how we see things is going to be a particularly important part of this retrograde period, not least because although there's no perfected opposition between Mercury and Pluto, on the 30th of July, Mercury will have moved back far enough in Leo to now be forming quite a close opposition to Pluto. There's only going to be like 2 degrees between them. So it's not a perfect opposition, but it's strong enough to definitely be in effect. So Pluto up there in Aquarius. So again, we have this feeling of being under pressure, being fearful about what others think of us. What do people think of my creative ideas? Or feeling too scared, again, that stage fright, to speak up. For some people, it might be a feeling that other people are overshadowing their light. So we've got a lot of Pluto overtone coming into this story as well. On the 1st of August, we will have the Sun conjoining Mercury. So this is the midpoint of the retrograde period. Again, we have a reference to light with the Sabian symbol. Early morning dew sparkles as sunlight floods the field. So there's a lot of references to the idea of light, being with the light, lightening up, lightening our thoughts, our thinking, or kind of raising our frequency, raising our vibration in some way. I've just spotted that asteroid Lucifer is here as well. So yes, I know we have a lot of connotations with Lucifer, but originally he was just a light bringer. You know, he was the light bringer. He's associated with the light. We have to remember he was an angel before he got told off and thrown into hell. So Lucifer, the light bringer, is here, and then we have all the sunlight flooding the fields with the Sabian symbol. Lucifer, the other side of him, is also connected with pride, and that catches my attention too, because the sign Leo is also connected with pride, a pride of lions, remember. So the trouble is with being ruled by the sun is that sometimes the ego can take over, and we can be too proud to say what we think or to ask for help, or we can identify too much with our thoughts, so much that we don't allow other people's opinions to sort of come in. So there's some underlying issues of pride coming in with Lucifer being here. And there's also Deianira as well. Deianira is an asteroid associated with victim consciousness. So there might be a tendency to fall into a victim mindset, especially if we are identifying too closely with our ego. You know, if somebody disagrees with us, thinking about the opposition to Pluto, maybe there is a tendency to fall into victim consciousness with Deianira, nobody likes me, this kind of thing. So we have to watch that tendency with Deianira being there. And then we also have Ishtar here as well, which is associated with traveling into the underworld. So that's Pluto's realms, traveling into the underworld, being stripped bare so that we actually come as ourselves, come as you are. That's the nature of Ishtar. Ishtar is about revealing the truth of the self. So if you put all this together, then the midpoint of this retrograde is likely to illuminate where we have been hanging on to a certain way of seeing things, and it's going to strip that perspective away from us. That's Ishtar. She had to take off all her clothes and jewelry as she went down into the underworld, and so the stripping away of these sort of things that we don't need, eventually reveals who we really are. It reveals our true voice, not the one that Lucifer has tricked us into using. Now we're going to find our true voice, the one that maybe we were too scared to use. Mercury will then station direct on the 11th of August, and the Sabian symbol for this degree will be rock formations tower over a deep canyon. So this Sabian symbol very often can feel a little bit like we are between a rock and a hard place, but we're at the end of this retrograde period. So maybe all that needs to happen now is a leap of faith that will take you across that deep canyon. We have to make that leap. I'm very interested in the fact that asteroid Dionysus is here as well, because the station retrograde, we had Alice, which can speak of altered states of consciousness, and Dionysus as well is also about altered states of consciousness. He is the god of wine and ecstasy. So absolutely, you can have some wine whilst Mercury is retrograde. We are blessed from the stars in this case. So Dionysus being here tells us that with a change of consciousness, with a willingness to enjoy life, to let loose a little, that's part of playful Leo. I used that word before, the playfulness. It's associated with entertainment. That's why I was talking about theatre earlier on. It can also be dating and all the things that we do to enjoy life, all the things that we do that light us up and remind us of who we are. Remember, it's ruled by the sun. So Dionysus is saying, if we can get into that mindset, Mercury, if we can get into this mindset where we are willing to enjoy life, then the other asteroid, Rhiannon, says we then reclaim our sovereignty, because that's what Rhiannon is about. She's a character from Welsh mythology that's associated with horses, but she's also associated with just the idea of sovereignty. Connection to the land. So it seems then that this Mercury retrograde is really taking us on this inner journey to rediscover our own light, to remember that we had an original mission when we came back to Earth, when we decided to reincarnate. We had a purpose, a plan, an idea of who we are, and a voice. And sometimes through the course of life, things happen, difficult experiences, difficult people, toxic situations. I'm drawing on the opposition to Pluto here. Things happen in life that can manipulate or change or undermine our original mission or ideas or voice. And so it feels like the purpose of this retrograde is to put our original thoughts, our original ideas, our original voice back in the spotlight. So this brings me to the end of this reading for Mercury retrograde in Leo. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please do click a like and subscribe. If you would like to hear more from me, I do have a Substack, Patreon, my website. I'll put all the links below. I will see you again soon, and in the meantime, I wish you many blessings on your path.